Welcome everybody. Welcome to Bridge Gardens and to Long Island Grown. Thank you all for coming. Did you know it's been 9 years since Jim Kilpatrick and Harry Nyans gave Bridge Gardens to Peconic Land Trust. It's been 8 years since we've been sponsoring an annual series. This is the 4th year for Long Island Grown, and the 3rd year that it's been sold out before the first panel discussion. So wanted to thank you all for being part of that. I also wanted to thank our panelists today, Matt Schmidt from Schmidt Farms up on the North Fork, Chef Jason Weiner, our neighbor from Almond Restaurant here in Bridgehampton, and Ron Gerler from Jamesport Vineyards. Also like to thank our media partner, Edible East End, and of course Laura Donnelly, our moderator, who's been with us since the beginning of the series. For those of you who don't know, Laura is the food editor for the East Hampton Star, wonderful pastry chef, and a good friend, and a frequent contributor to the Barefoot Contessa cookbooks and TV series. Before I turn it over to Laura, just wanted to highlight some of this year's schedule of events. You know, in the 9 years that we've been part of a stewardship project of the Land Trust, we've been offering a wide variety of workshops and classes and tours and walks and a whole range of events, and all of them, you know, all with a focus on sustainable gardening and landscaping and edible landscaping too. And this year is no exception. As in the past, we are partnering with the Perfect Earth Project and Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County to bring you information about sustainable lawns and lawn care and landscaping. Paul Wagner of Greener Pasture Organics will be returning for his 3rd year as our lawn expert, and he will be here to answer your questions about sustainable lawns and landscaping every Tuesday afternoon starting in April. I always look forward to Paul's time here because I can get my own questions answered and I can seek his advice. And I urge you all to do the same and take advantage of his expertise and knowledge. He really is a great guy too. And this year Paul is also offering 2 3-part courses, one on sustainable lawns and one on organic rose care, featuring our rose garden. So I urge you all to attend those. We continue our grand partnership with the Horticultural Alliance of the Hamptons. And our first offering with them is on March 25th, when Jackson Dodds will be here. Jackson Dodds is a local arborist, president of the Long Island Arboriculture Association, and a great teacher. This would be a great way to learn how to prune your own trees and shrubs, or how to have whoever's doing it for you do it right. That same day, our community gardeners will be having their spring orientation here. You know, though it's small in overall scope, the community gardens are large in promise. Last year and this year, we sold out all 20 plots. And we look forward to another bountiful season, this coming one. The community gardeners add life to Bridge Gardens every day, and we're really happy to have them here working the land. If you haven't had a chance to become a member for Bridge Gardens for this season, for the 2017 season, I hope you take the time to do so. In addition to our educational programs, we are also, as usual, having our Fridays at 6 music nights. This year Charles is always at one of them. This year, July 21st and August 18th. We're also planning a 3rd members-only music night in September, so that's another good reason to become a member. Our music nights are always a highlight of the summer for me and for everyone who attends, so I really hope to see you there. We're also reprising a series that was new last year called Fridays at 4, a tasting and a tour. These are held on the last Friday of the month in June, July, and August, and are a great way to see the evolution of the gardens through the season and while enjoying a local beverage. Last year's programs were a great success, and we look forward to bringing you, to introducing you to more local winemakers, brewers, and distillers. With that, I want to thank you again for coming today on this cold day. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you again for the next panel discussion on Sunday, March 19th. And so with that, I will turn it over to Laura.
Thank you. And then I guess we're just going to pass, you guys are going to pass this around when you answer questions. Thank you, Peconic Land Trust, for entrusting me with this job once again. Edible East End, I say this every time, but usually when I'm researching one of my own stories, I go to Edible East End articles first and find everything I need to know. They're beautifully written. And they always seem to find the best farmers and winemakers and restaurateurs before I do. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. Thank all of you. Let's see. Let's begin with Matt. Tell us about your family farm and how you got involved with it.
I'm a fourth-generation farmer on Riverhead. It's Phil Schmidt and Sons farm. We probably grow about, we farm 200 acres, a lot of it's double crop, so it's roughly, probably around 300 acres planted or so a year. We grow sweet corn, leafy greens, all types of lettuces, kale, color greens. We do root crops, radishes, horseradish, cilantro, dill, basils, parsleys, beets. We do different varieties of squash and pumpkins. We got into some of your pick your own, and we have a retail stand, but we're still probably mainly wholesale. I guess we keep kind of pushing away from that a little bit and cutting back some because it's getting really hard to compete, but we're trying at it. So then we also have Holy Schmidt's horseradish, which I bought here, which I started probably 6 years ago as a side business, but that keeps growing more and doing better. It's a little value added, so it helps. We also do some value added with our other crops too. We do pickled beets, we have a few dressings, pickles, horseradish pickles, a few different things that are at our stand. We also do cut flowers and stuff too. So.
Good. Next we have Jason Weiner, who has a distinguished career out here. Only reason I recognize him is because the Amber Waves hat that never comes off his head. You're not going bald under there, are you? I know you're not. You're a handsome fellow.
Not the first person to accuse me of having an ulterior motive or something. The truth is, I do have an agreement with Amber Waves Farm that any time that I'm caught on camera, I have to be wearing one of their hats.
There you go. There you go.
Not really. Actually, well, Amber Waves Farm, obviously, they have a long relationship with Peconic Land Trust, so it's all kind of keeping it all in the family. I mean, speaking of Peconic Land Trust, when I need to relax and I need to calm down, I just hum the words Peconic Land Trust to myself internally, and everything's better. Talk about a true treasure to our community. I don't think any of us can really, I mean, we could be here all day just talking about the Peconic Land Trust. So thank you for inviting us here. And also, I mean, Bridge Gardens, I mean, really, I mean, what just what an enchanted place this is. And I'm really just so happy and proud to be kind of part of this whole thing today. Thank you. Anyway, me and my partner Eric opened a restaurant called Almond, which was originally located in a broke-down shack next to King Cullen about 15 years ago. And then we moved to the center of town, and we have another couple of restaurants in Manhattan, and really what we do isn't that interesting. We just try to forge relationships with with growers and artisans and get just some great product in our restaurant and just try to keep out of the way of it and let the ingredients do what they need to do and try to screw it up. And from the front of the house perspective, we just try to be nice to people. It's not really that interesting. What these guys do is a lot more interesting than what we do. The interesting thing about it, I guess, is that it's sort of a show every night, and in that way, it's kind of theater, which is a little bit walking on a tightrope. But that's pretty much it. Just have a couple of restaurants and serve great food, hopefully.
Now, Ron Gerler from Jamesport, is it Vineyards or Winery?
Jamesport Vineyards.
Jamesport Vineyards. I'm just going to read a quote from you before I let you talk about what you do. Wine is an expression of who works with that wine, who grows the wine. For the end product, you have to, I think, express yourself in many different ways, and that's the beauty of wine for me.
Sums it up.
So tell us about your family, and you're one of the first ones on the North Fork.
Yes, my father, Ron and Anne Marie, came out here in 1981, so it was about 35 years ago, and bought a farm. My mother always drove past this one particular farm and said, "I'm going to knock on that door today." And they took a shot, knocked on that door, and the man said, "I'm selling the farm today." It was apples and peaches that were on that farm, and we did not buy that with the intent of farming that, but that's how we got into the farming business. My dad is a plumbing manufacturer. I'm still alive, still a part of the business in the sense that he was the one that saw something that, you know, some people can't see sometimes. He saw what was going to happen to the North Fork and to the South Fork, and that it was going to become this beautiful place. Because I think that's really what the East End is. It is a beautiful place. It's a difficult place to live, you know, both financially and physical sometimes with all the traffic and things that are around us. But they saw something when they came out here, and that was that they wanted to be able to produce something from the land. We come from the island. We came from Oyster Bay, Syosset area, and you know that it's a different place, and it's a beautiful place also. But out here, you're working with the land. You're working with Mother Nature and the elements and the things that are around you. And I think that's the challenges that we as farmers like to do. And you know, as a chef, the challenge is taking something that a farmer grows and expressing it on a plate. And you know, obviously making it taste good. And I think with the wine, it's the same way. Wine has been around for centuries, and I think that's what attracts us to it. Is that it is a part of the DNA of what we do with society. It's something that somebody grows in a different region, and the same grape will grow in a different spot, but yet it'll taste completely different because of the way it was handled and the way it was dealt with in the winery. And so my dad has always been one of those individuals that dives into things that just starts from scratch and goes with it. He's been that way his whole life. He's still that way. It's amazing that he's 92 years old and he still has that tenacity that, you know, to just keep starting new things all the time. And I think I took part of that with him, you know, from him, and that's what I love about the growing aspect. Is you're literally dealing with the challenges of 15-degree days or 65-degree days, or you know, the rains at harvest. And so, you know, that's the beauty of what we do is once again working with the land and putting it on our plate, and then having you guys enjoy what we do from the growing standpoint. But you know, we're a small winery, and I say small. We're only, you know, 3,000–4,000 cases. We grow about 60 acres. We have 13 different varieties, and so they're like having 13 different children, because each variety expresses itself differently based on the weather and the care. And you know, we've made a lot of mistakes because my dad was one of the pioneers out here. And I think Louisa Hargrave once said, or John Wickham actually said this, you don't want to be a pioneer because you're going to pay for it twice. And that's because you are carving the path that nobody knows. And so the early ones that came out here, like my father, there was a lot of pain in that carving the Long Island wine that has started out here. And it's still a very small region, but it's definitely a region that really, I think, is here to stay. It's the generations. You know, you talk about farming, it's your fourth generation, Matt, and you know, I'm second generation, and I have children that are involved at some levels. You hope that you can get it to their hands. My father got it to me, and that's, you know, the beauty I have is being able to pass it on to them, and hopefully I'm able to do that. You know, that's going to be the key.
Do you mind passing it back down to Matt? Matt, I saw a video of how you make horseradish. Can you explain that to everybody? It looks very old school equipment. Looks like a meat grinder.
Yeah, well, that's, we have now actually have a more commercial grinder, but yeah, no, we started, we had old meat grinders you turn by hand. Actually, my grandfather got some of them for his wedding gift. He got like 4 or 5, and we still use them once. I mean, that's how, when I first started making, that's all I used, and then we still do use them sometimes. And it's tough though, because it's right in your face, and it's you're crying. I mean, it's hot when you eat it. It's a lot worse when you're making it. But no, that's how it all started with those old. I mean, they're probably from.
Can you describe the process right from the?
Yeah, it starts. I mean, well, horseradish. I guess the whole process. Right now we're digging this time of year because for Passover and Easter is when it's the most popular time, and it takes about a year to grow. So usually we plant it in mid-end of April, harvest it now for like the next month. We just started last week and we'll probably harvest it for about a month. And so we harvest it, dig it up, then you got to take it in the barn and clean it. We use all our own seeds, so we've pretty much been doubling acreage every year in horseradish. When it comes out, it's a big root. It's got shoots coming out and side roots all over. There's one main root that's usually the one that you can sell for people who want to make their own or whatever they do with it. It's the #1 root, I guess you call it. It's a big fat root, and then off that there's a bunch of shoots. So it's a lot of labor, but you got to break each shoot off, and that's how you get your seed. What you plant next year, you plant those. There's also some kind of junk that's on there, really skinny, like root hairs almost, that you kind of dispose of. But so you go through, you clean it all, then we do wholesale the roots and retail them, and then we keep a lot for our own. We do our own processing. From there, with the processing, we take it, wash it, we hand peel all the horseradish. It's not, most places it's just washed and grinded. We hand peel all of it, which really makes it a little whiter and better product, I think. And then we grind it from there, and then basically just you add vinegar, a little sugar, a little salt, and jar it up, or jar it, or we sell some gallons and stuff too. And that's pretty much how that goes. But
has anybody here ever made their own homemade horseradish?
Would you put it in a food processor if you were making your own?
a lot of people, I don't have a food processor, but that's what most people do. Yeah, I mean.
It's really pungent when it's freshly made.
Yeah, when you're making, I mean, it hits hot. It's not hot, but I mean, it's in your face.
So the vinegar is after the grinding process. You won't pre-vinegar it.
No,
pre-pickle it. Or?
No. I have pots basically that I put the vinegar in how much I know I need in there, and then I just grind it right into the vinegar, so it comes out of the grinder right into the vinegar. But some people, I'm not to say that's how I do it. There are people who say don't put it in the vinegar right away. But this is my grandfather's recipes, and that's how we keep making it from how he made it. That's actually how I got started. We used to make it every year this time and give it away to people. We'd keep enough for ourselves and give it to family and friends. And we made it in the barn on a trailer with these grinders hooked up to the trailer, and that we turn, and it got to a point that I don't know how many we had, maybe 6, and it's just 6 of us sitting there, there's guys peeling, and we're making it, and people just walking into the barn door, and it's like, we got work to do after a while. This is not, we're giving it all away, and it finally got to a point, it's like, well, sell it or don't do it at all. It's like a full-time job giving this stuff away. So then that's when we started putting it on our stand and kind of selling it. So.
Did you say vinegar, salt, and sugar? No.
Yeah, we put a little bit of sugar. Not a lot, but you put some sugar.
You make 6 different kinds, right?
Yes, 6. There's a regular, there's a horseradish mustard, the beet horseradish. I have one that we have hot peppers that we add.
Cranberry and
all
season?
beets, cranberries.
I'm embarrassed that this is the first time hearing of this.
Barbecue and cocktail sauce.
I know, I want to try the barbecue. You guys should make a Bloody Mary mix.
I know, that's something we have
I'm sure
to
people tell you that.
Yeah, we get that a lot. But
we should do this together. I jar about 500 pounds of pipe tomatoes every September. We'll do a little almond, Schmitz, Bloody Mary mix. I'll get to the, okay, I'm on it.
Witnesses to your fruit. Can I be an investor? I'll be an investor.
We're not going to have time. We're going to be so rich, we're going to have time for this time next year. Taking over.
Let's do it, dude.
You can pass that to Jason. Now, Jason, you didn't brag enough on yourself, so I'll do it for you. Jason has cooked at the James Beard House, I believe, 5 times. You also do, which is a great thing, Meatless Mondays, which some restaurants participate in. Good for the earth, good for the people. He also was one of the chefs who started the Montauk Fish Burger Project, which I don't know if you all know about that, but trying to get healthier food into the public schools out here. The Bridgehampton School was the first in the country to do this. As soon as they did it, all the other public schools in the country were like, ooh, we want to be part of that. They got Eric Repair to help develop the recipe, Dan Barber of Blue Hill to help develop the bun, which Carissa Wechter of Carissa's Breads makes for you. So Sean Barrett of Dr. Dish, who was also on one of our panels a couple years ago. Now he's a rock star like you. And you serve the Montauk Fish Burger at your restaurant.
We do, yeah. We do it on a seasonal basis, and right now the local guys aren't going out, so it's not on the menu now. But yeah, and just a quick, I don't want to forget to shout out the Bridgehampton School. They're actually growing arugula for us now. The high school kids are growing arugula in their greenhouse, and we're selling. So we're on our menu. We have Bridgehampton School arugula, which is
that's
super
great.
Cool. Yeah.
I know the menu there. It's not obnoxious like this is from this farm. It's just like, oh, Mary Lee's potatoes and, AWF.
I'm obnoxious, unless everyone understands what's going on here.
That's funny. I know I'm not supposed to curse, but I'm going to try not to. But your partner, Eric Lemonides, who's always been the maitre d' and a business partner with you since 2001.
That's right. We've actually known each other since. Well, I'm a year older than him, so we've known each other since I was 6 and he was 5.
Right.
I'm sorry, I have that right? Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I remember you.
So we're thick as thieves. We're very close.
So I'm hoping pretty much everybody in this room has been to Almond Restaurant, but if you go there and you meet Eric, I think he's kind of a combination between a Labrador puppy and a therapy dog. He's kind of like, he just wants you to love him and he wants you to be happy.
He's definitely that hairy. Eric is a great, whatever, the thing that we have, me and him, the yin and yang or whatever it is, seems to work out. I'm sort of, antisocial and obsessive and in the kitchen hiding, and he's a lot more happy-go-lucky and more kind of, he's a front-of-the-house guy, let's put it that way.
And then he said one time, we don't have tablecloths or TVs. A-holes like tablecloth restaurants. We don't get any A-holes here. Would you agree with that? The only restaurant in the Hamptons that doesn't get obnoxious people.
Well, it's funny that, was that an article that you wrote?
Yes. Yeah, but it was my interview with Eric.
Yes, I remember, yes. I know those are Eric's words. There was a little bit of, there was a little hand-wringing, because and he agreed with me after the fact. That made it sound like in some way where, in a very kind of democratic small d way, we're kind of welcoming to all types, but it also kind of felt a little, I don't know, it felt a little weird when he said that, but yeah, a-holes, I don't know what to say about a-holes.
We don't have to say anything. You don't have to say anything. Ron, tell us about some of the restaurants that carry your wines, and do you have a favorite of your own that you produce?
From the North Fork. So not the South guys. South guys do a great job. But there's plenty of great restaurants, and I think that's really what the wine industry has done for the last 40 years. It has stepped up the level, the playing field out here. And not growing up here, my wife's family grew up out here, and it got sleepy town out here from Labor Day to Memorial Day. It was winter out here. And so what's kind of nice is that there's so much to complement the food, the people that grow it, the wines that are elevated, and it's taken 40 years for that to happen. When you're starting a region from zero, you're at zero. And so you're a pioneer, and you're paving the way and trying to understand what that vine's going to give you from the soil. And there was a lot of mistakes made. You had to rip things out. So I'm getting around to your question. I'm just going in a roundabout way. So the varieties that work best here, I think, are now it's finally starting to complement the food and the local farms and the things that we do out here. We have a Jerry Hayden who just passed away, but it was a 5-star restaurant there, and what he did, and he elevated the style of food on the North Fork. And it's the South Fork has wonderful restaurants like Almond. But I think any time that my wine is in any restaurant, I'm happy because it shows that they're supporting what we do. And that wasn't that way 15, 20 years ago. It was a very difficult process to get people to enjoy Long Island wines. There's a stigma about Long Island wines sometimes, and I think it's just due to the fact that it's a young region. We're very young. We're competing with France and Italy and Spain and all these countries that have had it in their blood for centuries now.
But now you see Long Island wine coast to coast.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's really. I remember 15 years ago when we first opened. We had Channing on there, and we palmed up. So what is this? Where's the California? Where's the Italian? Where's the French? And it's really not like that anymore. Now people are admonishing us for not having enough Long Island wines on there. Yeah.
And I think that's, once again, it's the culture, the restaurants, the people supporting it, and that's really what is changing out here, and it's nice to see that. So the a-holes that come out here, we don't want them out here if they're not going to support us. But it's exciting. I grew up at 17 when I came out here, and to see it change, the whole thing change right in front of you, it's pretty impressive. Just from a growing standpoint, as well as from a culinary standpoint. The area is here to stay. It's becoming a destination, and that's really what makes something wonderful. Is it becomes a destination. I know that means it brings traffic and neighbors and all of those things, but that's how businesses are going to survive if we don't. We need people to do that for sure.
And the Long Island wines are winning huge awards internationally now too. They're definitely getting the respect.
The technology, the time, the people, the understanding, all that plays into the whole mix. It's just time. You have to live long enough, as my father would say.
I think I read somewhere about you that part of your technique they compared to the parent or the babysitter who lets the kids stay up a little too late, and it could go either way. But everything's fine in the morning, so do you let your grapes just go a little longer in season? And
that's what we learned when we first came out here. We didn't have some of the technological advancements, and I'm talking netting and things like that to compete with all the animals out here. And so we were picking earlier because of pressure, and so the wines were younger, they were greener, because they weren't fully ripe. And so now it is letting the time, and hopefully the weather is on your hand where you can let that extended season, because we're a short growing season because of the water that surrounds us, but it's also because it's a microclimate. We're an island sticking out into the middle of the Atlantic. So whatever happens in September through November is really what makes or breaks what we do out here on the North Fork.
Can you explain that? What do you mean? Why? Because what is the water?
Well, you have the water, the body of water, that's the influence, meaning the breezes are coming obviously off the Atlantic, they're coming off the Sound, they're coming off the bays, they're the microclimate. So those climates, create unique areas, and when you're growing something, whether it's grapes or horseradish or, different areas,
Why is it shorter though? Why are we having
Well, California starts in April. Their season starts in April and it ends up in October. So we've lost that entire month of growing. So we're forced to grow something in a shorter time frame, and if the weather doesn't get in our way, we're okay. But if it does, then especially October can be a tough time of the year out here.
I want you to pass the microphone back to Matt, but you didn't answer the first question, which is what's your favorite wine that you make?
Oh, the favorite
Do you
wine?
have one?
Yeah, I love Cab Franc, love Sauvignon Blanc. I mean, if those are the two varieties I had to grow, I would grow them. I grow 13 different varieties, but those two are, I think, really talk about the North Fork Sauvignon Blanc because of the shellfish that we have out here.
Yes.
And then obviously the Cab Franc because it's spicy character and it goes well with duck, and so a lot of it now we have people growing beef and pigs and lambs and all of that stuff. So I think that's quail. Yeah, we got quail too out here now. So I think that's what's going to elevate in the next 20 years. This region is all those different farmers doing all these different things out here.
That go well with the wines. Yeah, that's a good point. Matt, is it true that Katy Perry shot an album cover at your farm, and what was that like?
Yes, she did that. few years back. I don't know. Like
2013?
Okay, yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, she was there. I actually didn't even really see her the whole time. I mean, there must have been 20 buses lined up out front and people all over, and I mean, it was like a whole, I don't know, the amount of people there she must have paid to work. That thing was unbelievable. But yeah, no, she was there, and I mean, it was good. Like I said, though, I mean, I didn't really, she met my parents, I guess, but we were just, I mean, it was in August, so we were really, really busy, so we were just kind of doing what we were doing. But no, it was a sight to see. I mean, all catering to everything, you know, everything you could imagine was there. So it was something to see. They got there first thing in the morning, and then they were there till through the night shooting. They had lights set up and everything, so it was pretty good. But
I saw the picture. It's beautiful.
yeah, no, it's hanging up in our farm
sunflowers
stand.
or something. So do you have, I saw on the website for your farm that you have a lot of really nice looking recipes like beet risotto and then a roasted cauliflower with pasta and lemon. Do you have a favorite thing that you like to make, like either with your horseradishes? Do you have a favorite recipe or dish?
I'm not exactly much of a cook, but
you have to eat.
Yeah, no, I eat them. My mother makes them, and my wife, and a couple of other people who help out with the stand. They all come up with different things. I mean, it depends, you know. There's different times of year, different things are ready, different things are ripe, and it's always something new, you know. And she does a lot in the fall. I guess she does a lot of. She does like a taste of fall. They come up with like a different recipe kind of every week with what you could pair what's in season with, you know, just different things that maybe you wouldn't think of making or haven't had, and so. But no, it does pretty good. So.
Do you mind passing it over? Okay, Jason, I did not know this before, but you went to Vanderbilt and studied engineering and mathematics?
Well,
I'm just wondering how you go from that to chef.
I made it a year. I made it. I went to college for a year for whatever reason. I have a math brain. I was never much of a student, but based on the fact that I did well on some standardized tests, and they were probably really hard up for Jews and their quota at Vanderbilt. I was guessing there was maybe a little bit of affirmative action going on. Anyway, so, but yeah, I'm not much of a student. I made it a year, and then after that 1 year in college, I ostensibly was like, okay, I guess I'm going to take some time off, and I was 19 years old, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I faked a resume and somehow got a job at Regine's on Park Avenue, old school, literally with zero experience. It turned out later that their whole kitchen was on strike, and that's why. And there was hard up there. This is totally true. And within a week of being there, I was literally on the line in this old school high-end French place. It was me and a couple other like randoms that they got off the street, I guess, who maybe had a little bit of experience, who actually had a real resume. And three, again, this is the early 80s, three like majorly coked up French chefs. It was great, but you know, the thing is, I made it a year there, and I learned all the basics, all the mother sauces, and you know, your hollandaise and your beurre blanc and all the basic stuff, and it was great. And then anyway, from then on, I was like, okay, this is not taking a year off. This is what I'm doing, and yeah, that's what I did.
How old were you? If you were just
I was 19. I was 19. Yeah, it was one year college where, anyway, yeah, and then into that, yeah. So yeah, School of Hard Knocks.
Mind passing it down to Ron again. Ron, I know we're talking to you and about the wines, but and you're talking about your father. I think it's pretty interesting that he was a lawyer. He helped run his father's plumbing business. He was a harness driver at Roosevelt Raceway and got a pilot's license.
Yeah, that was an award. Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing. And then bought this farm and started making wine. That's amazing.
That's the type of guy he was. He would just literally get into anything. I mean, he just has that entrepreneurial, we call him a Renaissance man because he's always doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
He's down in Florida right now, and was saying earlier he drives a 50-foot motorhome, but we banned him from driving this thing because we're more afraid about the other people than him. He doesn't quit, that's for sure.
I'm going to open up the room to questions from the audience. Yes.
I have a question for Jason.
Oh,
No, it's okay. It's okay. Don't be upset. I missed your pig dinner last week. I couldn't go. I forget what reason.
But tell them what it was
I
called.
want to hear about the pig dinner, and you did it with another chef.
I did do it with another. Okay, so a friend of mine, Jeremy Bloodstein, who's a chef at a restaurant called E&E in Montauk, is a friend of mine, and I really appreciate what he does and his approach to ingredients, and we're friends. So I thought, and his restaurant's closed now because of the off season. So I thought it'd be fun to do a collaborative thing at our place, and we're planning on that. And then my wife's cousin Sean has a little farm in Sullivan County, and he called me up and told me that he had a Vietnamese potbelly Tamworth cross that weighed about 300 pounds that they had been feeding their breakfast leftovers for the past year and a half, and it was getting too big, and she was eating more than just leftovers, and she's like, he was going to put her down, but didn't have a place for her. I was like, perfect, I'm doing this dinner, so he and it just worked out that so he took it to the slaughterhouse, brought it right down to us. And then our friends at the Montauk Brewery heard we were doing this, like, oh, we'll do the beer. So, and then it became a thing. So yeah, this past Wednesday we did. So we took that whole pig. Ended up the hang weight ended up being about 240, and we did 5 or 6 courses, and we used the head to make head cheese, and we used the flank meat to do pozole, which is a Central American thing where you take dent corn, which by the way is available. I was talking to Marilee Foster, some of you may know her, but anyway, she was telling me that dent corn, maybe as far as she knows, hasn't been available on the east end of Long Island in maybe 30 years. Now this is dry. This is not regular sweet corn that we eat in the season here. This is corn that's grown specifically to be dried and milled. But you can also do something called nixtamal with it, which is it's a centuries old ancient tradition where you take dried corn and they would add limestone to it, but now we actually get calcium oxide and add to water, which makes calcium hydroxide, not to get too far in the weeds. But anyway, it has an alkaline base to it, and what that does is kind of opens up the dry corn and lets off that outer shell, and you can make this just amazing stew with it. We actually, us white people call it hominy, but it's known as pozole. So that was one of the courses, and we did this sort of Chinese style thing with the hindquarters, with broccoli from our friends at Quail Hill Farm, and it was literally Leighton and Scott from Quail Hill Farm. The event was on Wednesday evening. They literally harvested that broccoli Wednesday morning, so it ended up on people's plates literally within 10 hours of being out of the ground. It was great fun, and it was sort of really at the heart of what we do, which is just taking product, amazing stuff from people that we know. The product itself has its own story. We don't need to embellish anything else on top of it. We just try to put it on a plate, honor it, and just step out of the way and hopefully not screw it up. So that's kind of what that was about. Long-winded answer, but kind of, yeah. Anyway.
Questions? No questions.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
Do any of the three of you happen to know if it's possible to buy land on the North Fork or South?
Yep. 8 Hands Farm, right down the road from our vineyard.
What is it called?
8 Hands Farm.
Oh,
They're selling?
near Jamesport.
Yep, they have pigs, chickens, they're doing everything. They just opened a butcher shop there inside the place, so you can go there and it's already butchered for you and everything now.
So I misunderstood. I thought they were selling the property. I'm going, I go there all the time and get
No,
their chicken.
yeah, no, they're not selling. No, they're Tom and Carolyn, they're there to stay.
It's
They're
wonderful.
also, I mean, speaking of Jerry Hayden, they're great folks, and they opened up their place to do a memorial for
Yeah.
Jerry. Were you there?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
They did a memorial for Jerry Hayden, a chef who recently passed away. He was kind of, we kind of mentioned it earlier, kind of a real pioneer, putting sort of the East End of Long Island on the map culinarily.
And I shouldn't forget John Ross, because John Ross was really one of those guys that really paved the way, as we say, for opening the cuisine of the North Fork and the early parts of the winemaking. John's a great guy.
And Jerry Hayden was, before his careers in New York City and other cities, North Fork Table and Inn. And with his wife, Claudia Fleming, who, to my mind, is one of the best pastry chefs.
I was lucky enough to work for Jerry in San Francisco in 1992.
Really?
At
At
91
Aqua?
at Aqua, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know he worked there. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, so you knew him forever.
Yes. Did we have a question over here? Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I don't
more
want to step on
questions.
your moderator toe.
No,
Okay.
just you do whatever you want. Yes?
You mentioned Cab Franc and Sauvignon Blanc as the two most popular. What's your most popular one of what you make? What do you like?
Probably Sauvignon Blanc.
Yes.
Yep, Sauvignon Blanc.
And Matt, with the I have made my own horseradish. I'm just curious, if I had a quart of horseradish, how much sugar would you put in that? Approximately. A tablespoon? Teaspoon?
Gail, I need to have.
Is it a hint or is it more of a
Yeah, I mean, what do I make?
pinch?
Yeah, probably like a teaspoon, I guess. It's not much.
Okay,
Not a lot.
just a little. Okay.
Take the edge off, I guess? 'Cause I
Yeah,
never.
I guess it takes the edge off a little bit and cuts down the vinegar taste a little.
Mhm.
That's more kind of what it does. But
Right.
And just use white vinegar?
yeah, you know, it's still white vinegar.
I was going to say, to my mind, when you're pickling, unless you're making like a bread and butter pickle, something that's supposed to be sweet, the sugar is really just there. You're not really supposed to taste the sugar. It's just there to kind of act as a balance to everything else, kind of be in the background.
With this horseradish, can you eat it right away, or does it have to sit?
Right. Fresher, the better. The hotter it is. So that's kind of my whole. I guess I make it. It's always fresh, you know. I make it. I don't know. Almost every day, all the time. Yeah. So, cause, you know, they want it hot, and the fresher it is, the hotter it is, the better it is. You know, after it sits a long time and stuff, that's when it starts to lose its potency.
There must be some pressure there for you then. Like once it's out of the ground, the clock's ticking a little bit.
Well, not actually to make the roots. We can freeze and store them because you dig them once and you make it fresh all year round.
Got it.
So it's not just like we make it once. I mean, I make, you know, we make it every day. You know, make the actual graded stuff, but the roots there we store. And
Did you say you freeze the root? You can freeze the roots?
yep, you can just keep them refrigerated, but they're not bad. I guess some of them will start to go bad. They start getting a little moldy and stuff. But if you keep them, you know, like 28, 29 degrees, just freezing. You don't want to really go, but just enough to keep the mold and stuff from going on, and they stay good a long time.
A question for the winemaker. I was thinking also about pressure. When you were saying like you like to let your grapes get pretty ripe, that makes them better.
Yep.
And how much time do you basically have to harvest? And how many people do you have to get in there, like per acre to get it? Don't you have like just?
It's a good question. You know, pressure. I think in any business, anybody who owns a business, pressure is always there because you know there's decisions that have to be made. Harvest time is basically the decision that says we're picking, and this is the flavor and the style of wine we're going to make. If you pick a grape at a certain time, it's going to taste one way. So think of grapes like raspberries, tarts. All right, like they're tart. And as that raspberry sits on the vine longer or on the bush, it's going to get a riper taste. And you go into the strawberry, and then you go into the really ripe, you get that really strawberry jam flavor. So depending on when you're picking the grape, you're dictating what that's going to be the minute you process. Because you know where they can hold the root, we can't hold the grape. The grape is picked, and it immediately we start the fermentation process. The timing with people, yeah, it's tricky. Labor is becoming a big issue out on the both places, I'm sure, in terms of finding quality people. Anybody can pick grapes. but it's long hours. One man can pick 1 acre in 20 hours. So obviously we have, it's a time thing. So we'll have 20, 30 people show up and pick if we're picking, 3, 4 acres, because we want to get it and process it as quick as we can. But I do own a machine that literally rides right over the top of the rows, and I pick for several other wineries. It picks the berries whole, and it's amazing how clean the fruit really is when it's picked by a machine. And that machine can pick in 45 minutes that 1 acre.
Wow.
Why do you use people then still?
Well, people, it's sustainable. We talk about sustainability, and that's profitability in a business from a business standpoint. But people, it's part of the winemaking part. I mean, farming, working in restaurants. Jason probably could cook everything himself, but it wouldn't be that good all the time because he has so much pressure on him.
I walk around and try to look busy. That's what I do.
But it's the sustainability. Yes, there's an expense to those people, and that's the challenge of running a business. But people, it takes people to grow it. It takes people to make it. It takes people to enjoy it. But really, it's that whole connection that goes into that growing aspect. It's that's, for me, that's just the way I feel about it. We've always tried to be sustainable in what we do and try to minimize the impacts that we have on our particular farm. And unfortunately, you need people to do some of those tasks. I mean, it's very physical hand labor growing the grapes. There is some mechanization that takes place, but we're small, so we have the luxury of working with people.
It's actually on our, like I said, I do the horse ranch, but our family's farm, with labor is like the biggest issue you just can't find. It's hard to find help. I mean, we probably during busy time got 30, 40 people there. Because the horse ranch I can store, but all the other stuff is the same. You gotta cut lettuce, and when it's August and it's 80 degrees, if you don't get out there early in the morning and get it all cut, because it's gonna burn or shoot or be no good on you. You gotta, with all the stuff, but it's tough, and it's all by hand. There's nothing else you can do. So.
Any of you want to jump on help for more than that? Pay's not that good. Plenty of wine.
Do you have grape picking parties like a Tom Sawyer?
Yeah, people come, and they realize that it's a lot of work to make a bottle of wine. It's a tremendous amount of energy that goes into it. And you look at why we do these things. And I said it's because we came out here and wanted to take something from the land and grow and give back to the land.
Questions? Any more questions? Well, if there's no more questions, we might go ahead and enjoy refreshments.
That sounds good.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.